Welcome back to CFO Weekly, where we're talking with financial leaders about how to build efficiency in their teams, create time for strategy, and ultimately get results. With your host, Megan Weiss. Let's jump right in.
Today, my guest is Adnan Mughal. Adnan is the Chief Financial Officer at Cherry Coatings, the largest commercial-focused industrial services company based in the U.S., leading all its functions from accounting, finance, human resources, information technology, and business transformation to optimize profitable growth and company valuation. Mr. Mughal is also an operating advisor of Personiv Capital, focused on Personiv's residential services and market strategy. Mr. Mughal helps identify, evaluate, and due diligence potential partnership opportunities and collaborates with management teams of their partner companies to help scale their businesses, including helping define the value creation strategy, assemble the necessary talent and resources for accelerated growth, and execute operational improvements. Prior to Personiv and Cherry Coatings, Mr. Mughal was the Chief Financial Officer of Service Experts, a private equity-backed HVAC business with 95 plus centers and over 4,000 employees. At Service Experts, Mr. Mughal was a member of the senior management team that planned and executed a growth strategy focused on organic growth, margin expansion, greenfield expansion, and acquisitions. During his tenure with Service Experts, the company successfully closed and integrated over a dozen add-on acquisitions, while organically expanding services offerings across North America. Prior to Service Experts, Mr. Mughal was Vice President, Finance at Brightview, a private equity-backed landscaping business that he assisted take public in 2018. Prior to Brightview, Mr. Mughal held senior leadership roles at a variety of residential services and infrastructure businesses, including SunEdison, General Dynamics, and General Electric. Mr. Mughal received a Bachelor of Science in Business Management from North Carolina State University, an MBA from Texas A&M University, and an executive education from Harvard Business School. Adnan, thank you so much for being on today's episode.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite, and thank you for having me on this. It's a great opportunity, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, it's an honor. Today, we're going to be discussing your career journey and the insights you've gathered along the way, specifically regarding the role of a CFO. And I'm looking forward to hearing your story and learning from you. So let's get started.
Great.
First, let's start with your story and how it is that you got to where you are today.
That's a good question. So I guess for that, I'll go way back. I come from a family of business-oriented people. So growing up, never thought that I would go work for anybody. I always had this plan that I will have my own business, and that's how I was wired. And I made my plans. I had a structure in place, and I even started venturing towards it while I was in college. I wanted to open or start a chain of eye care centers. Then after that, I decided to go to grad school. And when I graduated, this was the time when the dot-com bubble had burst. So it wasn't the best time, needless to say, to start a business. So I ventured into looking for an opportunity and ended up joining one of remote facilities for General Dynamics out in Western North Carolina. I guess right place, right time, moved up quite a few times. Then eventually through different various companies, roles, opportunities, kept on moving up, challenged quite a few times, learned quite a few things along the way, some the hard way, and very fortunate to be in a position where I'm leading a team. I'm being inspired every day by my own team members, and hopefully I'm doing the same for them as well.
So as you look back on your career, are there moments or stories you can point to as turning points?
One of the big one for me that stands out is when I decided to leave General Dynamics and join General Electric. I had a pretty amazing run at General Dynamics where the 7 years that I was with them, I think I got promoted 5 or 6 times. And I was overseeing close to $500 million P&L. but I wanted to join a company that truly invested in their employees and focused on developing them as leaders. And at that time, in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, the GE had a very, very strong name in terms of developing people. So I knew about this leadership program, and I wanted to be part of that. And so I decided to leave General Dynamics, where a lot of people were surprised. A lot of people were actually shocked that, what are you trying to do? I was one of their youngest directors of finance, but I wanted the opportunity to invest in myself. So I made a change, and I'm so glad that I did, because it was the perfect platform for me to develop myself and truly learn, you could say, the basic fundamentals of being a business leader, not just a finance leader, but a business leader. And that pretty much then going through a leadership program, one of the most prestigious leadership program called Executive Financial Leadership Program. And that set up an amazing platform for me to then experience live projects, take courses in Ivy League schools. And it opened a lot of doors for me, not only within the company, and then after me moving on to other opportunities.
I've heard so many stories about that leadership program at GE. It sounds like it must have been an amazing experience.
Absolutely. GE is, or was, hopefully it still is, was one of the places where people truly would go into work with the mindset that they are going to make impossible possible today.
Wow.
And you're surrounded with people who had a similar focus. And when you're surrounded with very smart people, you have to push yourself beyond your limits, and then get to create new limits for yourself. And in that environment, you learn a lot. And so that was, and then especially being highlighted or being recognized to be in a leadership program, that's one of the biggest, I should say, motivations within the company to do even more or better.
And you mentioned having moved up the ranks quite quickly. So what is it that you credit for being able to do that?
Their number of, apart from, I would say, being right place, right time, then I guess a little bit of hard work.
It's got to be way more than that.
But I would say that it's the basic fundamentals. I think one of the key things for me, again, was growing up in a household of business or being part of a business-oriented environment right from the beginning. And then after that, every business that I've been part of, I've treated it as if it's my own work, my own business. And so I take it seriously the same way. If it's managing cost, I would view it just like as if I'm managing my own cost at my house and doing a budget at my house. I would manage the business cost with the same rigor. And so that's one part of it. And then it's also something that I've learned from one of the leaders at GE, my mentor. Her name is Candy Carson. She told me, surround yourself with smart people. Surround yourself with people who know more than you. So that is a trait that I've taken with me in any role that I go to, that I spend the time in finding the right people to help the company move forward and be successful. And if you're able to bring the right people on the team, then my job is to just get out of their way.
So let's talk about that for just a minute. So people, today, the staffing situation it seems to be at the top of everybody's mind. So how is it that you are continuing to find the right people? And how do you make sure that you're retaining those people once you've found them?
People, it is certainly a challenge, and it's a huge challenge. From my regard, I take the time to find the people. Majority of the people that I'm currently working with are the people that I've been working with for the last 10 years or somewhere along the process. And I stay in touch with them, even if I've changed roles or if they've changed roles. And when I find the right opportunity, I stay connected with them, either through LinkedIn or personal email, and keep a pulse on how their careers are going. And and trying to find opportunities how we can cross paths again. But along the way, it's also while you're working with them, treat them the way you would like to be treated, and creating that positive environment for them. Challenge them so that it's an environment where they learn. And along the process, you also learn as well, get to learn about their personal side. It's extremely important to invest the time in learning about your team, because if you don't, then somebody else will come and scoop them up. It's not always about, hey, am I getting the right kind of salary or compensation package? Sometimes there's a balance of, is the working environment healthy for me or not? And how you protect them, shield them, and providing the environment where they can excel is extremely important. So I guess I must have done something right that they still like to come work for me. And so far things have been progressing well, but don't get me wrong, there's still challenges. There's still roles that I'm still trying to fill. And it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, that speaks volumes when people are willing to follow you throughout your career. So when you look back, when you were first starting off as a CFO, what was one or maybe a couple things that you found to be more challenging than maybe you expected?
They were, I would say, the balance between your internal customer, your external customer, maintaining that balance. I would say that was something tough, or tougher than what I thought it to be. Everybody has this imagination that as you continue to move up, senior people, they only delegate, and they're not doing a whole lot, and it's just making decisions, and everybody else is the one who's working hard. It is so opposite of that, or at least that's how I've experienced. So maintaining that balance, when I say internal, external customers, whether your external customer are banks or auditors or your private equity sponsors or people above you, and internal as in either it's working with operations, working with sales, or to a certain degree, your own team, how you continue to maintain that balance. That's a challenge that I've seen because all of them are wanting things in a different way. And so how you continue to maintain that equilibrium is very important. Another one that I would highlight is, again, goes back to people. Everything starts and ends with people. If you don't have the right team members or quality people as part of your team, it's going to be a pretty significant challenge. So if you do feel that at some point that you have a team member who's not the right fit, who's not the right cultural fit, I should say, then either try to correct that as quickly as possible or maybe find somebody else.
That's great advice. So you've been in the role of CFO for a while. How have you seen the role evolve, let's say maybe in the last decade or so?
So I would classify it, I've viewed my role always in a way that I'm a business leader who happens to have a focus in finance, and my role is to influence operations to deliver positive financials. And so what that means is anything and everything that is in between to deliver positive financials, I have a role to play in that. So if there are execution gaps in operations, let's go work with operations to find out where the pressure points are. What can we do as finance to help them make better decisions? Maybe it's some analytical support that we can provide. Also highlight the fact that if we're seeing trends, how we can equip them with information that would make them more efficient. Again, if there are pressures from a sales perspective, let's do some analysis around, hey, how can we bring on more salespeople to drive more volume in a specific area where we've seen success in the past? Our convertibility rate has been higher. So it's all about, and even from managing costs, hiring, firing people, working with HR, anything and everything. So it's more of a CFO/COO type environment that I've always operated in. And that's how I was trained from companies like General Dynamics and General Electric. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tried to execute on. So I've seen that to be a successful trait for me. And I've seen this transition, people coming from just reviewing, seeing spreadsheets and only focused from an accounting perspective, transitioning over to more operational finance type roles. So that's what I would say, that I've seen the transition from a traditional accounting focused CFOs into more operational finance CFOs.
So it seems so important these days for CFOs to get closer to operations. How would you recommend maybe a new CFO goes about developing a relationship or getting themselves more familiar or closer to operations?
I would say it's extremely, extremely important for them to establish that relation and come across as if you're their partner and you're here to help. Because if we have that strong, lack of a better word, like attitude about, hey, I'm a senior finance leader, you will do as I tell you, that's not going to go far at all. So you have to come across that I'm here to help. We're in this together and we'll figure out a solution and we'll together execute on that. If something doesn't go right, then both of us are going to be held accountable. But at the same time, we will find a solution and work on it together. So you have to understand their pressure points. And if you don't, then there's always going to be some degree of friction. And friction is not a good environment to have or culture to create within an organization where you're trying to move forward, deliver positive financials. It becomes a challenge. So that's what I would say. Spend the time, learn the business, reach out to operations people and say that, hey, I want to learn. And the more you help me, I'll be in a better position to then turn around and help you.
I'm just curious, when you did your the leadership program at GE, was part of that program to go through operations in some way or another?
Absolutely. It was, GE was all about that we are developing business leaders. And some people may have different focuses, but the primary thing was we're developing business leaders. Some may have a focus in finance. Some may have a focus on the IT side. Some may have a focus on the sales side. But eventually, all of the people who are being developed as business leaders. So if you pull yourself out of one particular focus, you should be able to understand and lead a team of specialized individual in a different environment as well. Because from a business perspective, fundamentals are the same. And sometimes we say in finance, the fundamentals are the same. Same thing applies on the business side. So that was something that GE focused heavily on. And it was quite common for finance people to transition over to operations within GE in many divisional roles. I've seen that finance people becoming from CFO roles in divisional CFO role to divisional CEO roles, or also being part of sales team on the commercial side as well. So I've seen a spectrum of people, even outside of General Electric, who were trained by GE and doing roles that are outside of finance. So I viewed myself to be one of those business leaders who just, for now, it happens to be a focus in finance, but I always tend to view and put myself in operations position that if they are facing these challenges, what would I do?
And again, I'm just curious, but did you, like, once you were done with that program, did you take anything away from it? I mean, I'm sure you did, but do you put your own people today through a similar rotational program, or what lessons did you learn from that you continue to implement today for your own people?
So one of the things that I've learned was people are the most important asset that you have. And so helping them in terms of their career aspiration, giving them opportunity to understand what other opportunities that they have just around like the corner or within the organization is extremely important. But at the same time, set the goals, set targets for them, challenge them to do more than what they've done in the past, but do it in a way that there's some degree of balance as well, especially in this day and age. Work-life balance, extremely important. In the past, we used to talk about it, but now people are focused on trying to somehow have that as part of as part of their expectation. So how you help them create that kind of environment. But again, it goes back to the people aspect. Am I able to replicate what GE was doing? GE, of course, was a huge organization. They had the resources to develop people in that fashion. Mm-hmm. What I tend to do now is the target opportunities that we can, if there's some specialized leadership courses in our close by educational institute, or even anything that is online, I strongly encourage my team members, the more education that you can get, the better it will be for your own personal development. And it's always going to help you, if not right away, but in the long run. So that's what I try to instill in my team, and they're doing the same with their own team members. So that was something that I would say that I certainly learned coming out of that program, that education always helps. Networking is extremely important. And the more you network, I think it also helps you build the confidence to be able to have the interaction with different team members and learn from what they're doing in their own roles.
So as you look back on your career, are there mistakes that you've seen other people make, or maybe that you've made yourself, that you'd like to help other CFOs avoid?
That's a good one. So from a perspective of, I've made many mistakes in my career, first of all, and but I would also classify them as opportunities for me to learn, mm-hmm. Opportunities for me to then reflect on and see that I don't repeat them again. I've made mistakes about timing of. From a strategy perspective, that I completely missed out on a potential risk that is popping up. I've made mistakes like hiring the wrong people. I've made mistakes like taking on a role at the wrong time, and but then feeling that, hey, I'm under pressure, but I've learned the most out of those roles. It's all about converting the you could say the mistake that you think and converting it into an opportunity. If you feel that you've made a mistake, put your head down, focus on the role, and prove yourself wrong. If you truly believe you made a mistake, prove yourself wrong by overcoming that. And when you come out of it, you're going to be way stronger than where you were when you started that role. And and I've made some of those mistakes, and I'm better because of those mistakes.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Mistakes, I mean, they're inevitable. We are only human, but it's what you do with the learnings after those mistakes that's so important.
Absolutely.
So as you look back on your career, do you ever regret not going into opening your own business, or is there something you would have done differently along the way?
As I'm getting older, yes, I do think about it. I think about it a lot that, hey, I could have started the chain of eye care center, and I